The frogs can sense evil. Today I want to talk about a theory I've been putting together that's seeming more and more plausible as the days go on. You see, we've got a Liberal government that doesn't seem to do anything in benefit of the people. It's always to the detriment of Canadians. And I just keep thinking, why would they do it? So my initial theory on this was all about real estate. Now, if Trudeau had a plan from the very beginning, before he got elected, and he said to all his minister buddies, hey, start buying up houses. Once we get elected here, we're going to bring up the immigration levels drastically and we're going to get rich. This is a theory I've had for a while. It makes perfect sense why someone would do this. Even in a state where homelessness is just absolutely rampant across Canada, they won't do anything about it. They're very steadfast on their 500,000 immigrants per year. Recently dropped the foreign students, I believe, 20%, but that's only after major outcry. They still won't drop the immigration numbers. Housing prices are affected in two ways, either by people who buy the houses or people who rent the houses. Most of the buyers in Canada are either people who had multiple houses before this all happened and they're able to sell a house and then upgrade or whatever, or they're people coming from India or China that have a ton of money. Now those two countries, China and India, have the most population in the world, thus they have the most amount of millionaires and billionaires in the world. So there's just way more people from those two countries that are coming here that can outbid any Canadian any day of the week. By simple laws of supply and demand, if you're bringing in a lot of people that all need houses and they have the money to buy the houses from Canadians, then what ends up happening is some Canadians will move up, some will move down and pocket some of that money. I've got some friends doing that, but you're essentially increasing the base cost of housing. As more and more people come in, there's more demand, thus the supply goes down and the prices go up. Thus, whether it's immigrants or Canadians are renting these units out for higher and higher prices. Now, when Justin Trudeau a couple years ago told people interest rates are going to stay low for a long time, and people took him at his word, which you should never do with Justin Trudeau because he's a corrupt fool. People bought a lot of houses and condos and townhouses, etc. in Toronto, and now those people are struggling to get those mortgages paid. 1 in 5 people can't pay their mortgages in Toronto, and these people are going to start defaulting on these mortgages. Some people are selling their units at a loss. Some people are not completing on units, new units being built, and the developers are suing them, or they're just taking their deposit. Sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. No matter how you slice it, the real estate market in Canada is an absolute mess, and housing is an absolute joke. So it's equal parts of both homeowners and renters that are getting decimated by bringing in so many immigrants and foreign workers and foreign students. No one really knew this was coming unless you're the person in charge of increasing the immigration rates, like Justin Trudeau and his cabinet. So I think him and his Liberal buddies concocted this plan. They got into power. They probably started buying up houses super cheap. I'm guessing they went to somewhere really cheap outside of Ottawa. It's maybe easier to manage that way. They might have just gone to some other town, who knows. But if you go to a smaller town and say you're putting down $5,000, $10,000 on cheap houses in cheap towns, like $150,000 houses, $100,000 houses. Remember, this is before things went nuclear. You could easily snap up and get a whole bunch of mortgages, get people renting them, and you could, within a couple of years, have 20 different houses, 20 different renters paying those mortgages. Then you jack up the immigration rates, they go through the roof, supply goes way down, demand goes way up, and suddenly those, say, $100,000, $150,000 houses are now worth $200,000 or $300,000. That's an easy $100,000 to $150,000, possibly $200,000 of profit right in your pocket, because you can sell that house at the peak level, and if you do that 20 times, that's easily $1 million, $2 million. Now, the only way for this to work is if you're in control of the immigration rates, which they were. This was my initial theory of what's going on with the government and why they're so corrupt, and I still stand behind this. I think that's what's going on, but I think there's a second portion to this. Recently, Pierre Poilievre put in the non-confidence vote for the carbon tax, and they all voted against it, all of them, except the Conservatives. And I was thinking, why would these other guys do this? Why would the NDP and the Bloc and et cetera, et cetera? Do they all just want to burden Canadians with tax dollars? Do they can all see the poll numbers. It's not rocket science at this point to know what Canadians want. It's very clear. 7 out of 10 premiers don't want it. 70% of Canadians at least don't want it. Like, even a bunch of Liberal supporters don't want the carbon tax and think it shouldn't be in Canada. I'm starting to think, because the non-confidence vote, that they might have had this in the works from the start. When Trudeau teamed up with Jagmeet, with that pretty well-known photo where they're shaking hands, he's got that greasy cheese bucket smile. I wonder if they had a plan back then. It's like, Here, we're going to do two things, Jagmeet. We're going to be supporting each other right to the end. Now, this went down in 2019, and one of my previous videos broke down how Trudeau was trying to push the election 1 week to get the 22 Liberal MPs on his side that golden pension, because they're 3 days short, and there's 6 in the NDP as well. Now, maybe part of the deal back in 2019 was to be like, look, we're going to support each other to the end. Jagmeet might have been like, I got all my guys supporting me, you get all of your Liberals supporting you, because they probably know that it's better to have team support than trying to do things solo. It just doesn't work as a solo entity. And I bet Trudeau learned this from his dad. I bet his dad told him, like, whatever you do, you got to get everyone supporting you, which means you have to lift them up in the process, and they'll always vote for you. They won't break if there's something in it for them. So I think Trudeau was able to get all of his MPs on board, Jagmeet get all of his MPs on board. Back in 2019, they did the handshake deal, and they made an agreement that said, you know what, we're going to help support you and you support us, and we'll get all of us across the finish line where we all get golden pensions. We can inflate the price of houses after we buy a bunch of houses. We can sell those houses, make $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, and then we're getting at least $32,000 per year on the taxpayers' back, paid out year after year after year. And some of these MPs are getting $100,000. I think that's what they did. I think they made a handshake deal that they would get all of each other across the line, and they would just get stinking rich and have the money coming in. It only makes sense because people are greedy and people are terrible, and there are great and good and honest people. They're called taxpayers. There are some good politicians that are really honest and ethical, for sure, like Larry Brock, for example. That's an honest and good man who really is looking out for Canadians. And a lot of the Conservatives, there isn't a lot of footage on a bunch of the Conservatives, so I can't make an assessment of how honest or ethical I think a bunch of them are, but the ones that are on, committee and stuff, I think most of them really, they're just good people trying to do right by Canadians. In contrast, though, I think Justin Trudeau and his den of thieves, I would say most, if not completely all of them, are completely corrupt. And this is a plan they hatched back in 2019 when they did the agreement, the handshake deal with Jagmeet. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of my theory here. It makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense. And I've just in my personal life, I've seen how greedy people can be. I'm going to keep exposing Trudeau's corruption. That's the last thing he wants, is a bunch of YouTubers doing that. So people can see, the Canadian public can see what's really going on here. I greatly appreciate all your support. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next one.